Hello everyone! I am Paulette Bedruz, curator of the Museo ni Emilio Aguinaldo in Kawit, Cavite, one of the 27 museums managed by the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. Before anything else, allow me to extend my sincerest gratitude to the director and staff of the Museo de la Salle for the invitation to be part of the Volada Talks. Prior to working with the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, I used to work with the Museo de la Salle, a recreated 19th century bahay na bato built inside the campus of the De La Salle University Dasmariñas. So during my time there, our former boss, Mr. Jose Maria Ricardo Pandillo, brought us around different places to familiarize us with this 19th century Philippine architecture. The bahay na bato came about from a period that had social, environmental, historical, and cultural influences. The Filipinos during this period lived within the Bajo de la Campana, as imposed by the Spanish colonial order. The structure is actually a development from the pre-Spanish house on stilts to a massive and supposedly stronger house of stone that was built to protect the people from too many typhoons and earthquake during that time. The stylistic design of the bahay na bato is actually a fusion of the availability of materials, like for example, the hardwood and stones abundant within the area of construction, the skills of the builders, who were not schooled but have gained the distinction of having, and I quote, learned his trade from the friars. And lastly, the exposure to Western ideas, as Filipinos went abroad to study. The bahay na bato as a dwelling place was strengthened for permanence. The space within the household is dictated by the social practices of the time. Despite the wide range of influences, the bahay na bato remained a Filipino home, a space both physically and metaphorically expresses the culture of its dwellers. The main spaces in the bahay na bato are divided into two levels. The ground floor zaguan served as a storage area, while the living space is situated on the second floor. In the many bahay na batos we've visited, this is the typical spaces within the house. In the summer of 2018, we had an exposure trip in the Visayas. We went to Iloilo, Negros, and Dumaguete and visited the ancestral houses and buildings found in the island. From the Oro Plata Mata House of Monsignor Gigi Gaston in Manapla, Negros Occidental, to Casa Mariquit in Haro, Iloilo, all the way to Dumaguete, to the beautiful architecture of Silliman University. We were all amazed on how the photos from the influential book of Dr. Fernando Shalzeta and Martin Pino, The Philippine Ancestral Houses, all came to life. During this trip, we were able to pass a lot of posticos. We were received at the Caida and the Sala Mayor of various ancestral houses, and at times, counted steps of each staircase based on the building tradition of the Oro Plata Mata. One of the ancestral hacienda houses we visited was the Cloparols Lacson House in Talisay, Negros. At that time, the house was undergoing repair and construction. There were no furniture inside. The house was bare, but still very commanding as the architecture alone is a heritage treasure. After finishing the tour, Sir Joey asked us to have a last walk in the open veranda encircling the house. According to Shalzeta and Pino, this feature of the bahay na bato only became popular since the last decades of the 19th century. But like this house part is an overhanging enclosed porch that protect the inner part of the house from outside elements and is popularly known as the Volada. So the volada came from the Spanish word volar, which means to fly. Also known as the flying gallery, it enclosed the walls of the second floor of a bahay na bato and overhang the ground floor by 1.5 to 2 meters. It emerged as an adaptation to the tropical climate of the country because it protects the inner part of the house from the heat of the sun and the torrential rains. The main feature of its outdoor walls is what we call the capiz windows. This is a type of window reminiscent of the Japanese shoji or sliding panels. But unlike the Japanese counterpart, whose panels are made of paper, these windows are made of capiz, enclosed and wooden lattice work. But did you know that the capiz are a type of mollusk? Capiz or Placuna placenta dwell in muddy sandy bottoms of shallow seashores. When a Placuna placenta grows in its larva stage, it became protected by a circular flat shells. So when breathing and eating, it lifts one of its covers so that small animals can actually pass through. When we harvest it, these shells are the ones cut and inserted into lattice panels to become the capiz window, which appear as translucent squares. The bahay na bato architecture during the Spanish period introduced the use of capiz windows. To allow the wind to get through the house freely, windows were built high and were slid through grooved sills. During that time, there were two kinds of window panels: the persianas or wooden louvres, which shuts off the sun while letting in the air, and the capiz window, which allows light